Hey guys, welcome back to the first City Social of the 2021 season. Today we're going to dive through a big kind of preview of the season upcoming. It's kind of crept up on us out absolutely nowhere. The season is actually here. Manchester City are finally, after taking their turn, waiting back on Monday against Wolves. And I'm joined by two guests today to hopefully not dive too negatively through this season preview. I've got Dan Mooney. God, there we go. You're composite now. I've got David Mooney. This is the second take, by the way, of starting this video. I've got David Mooney from the Blue Moon podcast and Why It Always Does, not 93 to 80 said last time. All three are excellent podcasts for what it's worth. But yeah, got David Mooney here and of course Dan Burke from What Football as well, formerly and occasionally of Blue Moon as well. Guys, how you doing? You all right?
I'm good.
Yeah,
Are you
not
well?
too bad, yeah.
Hopefully this video is a lot better than my introduction anyway. We'll start with the season.
I'm just hoping it's not a precursor for the season, to be honest with you.
I think genuinely this is it. 2 minutes in, pause the video there. That is the season in a nutshell. It should be positive. Some good players on the pitch and all that kind of stuff, been messed up by defensive deficiencies, basically. We'll start kind of looking broadly about how well prepared Manchester City that you feel they are or not. Or basically, I'll start with you, David, if that's all right. It's the simple question, really. How well prepared do you feel like City are for this season, and are you feeling confident with it all?
It depends what mood I'm in when I've woken up, really. Because part of me goes, well, like you go into a season with last season's squad, minus David Silva, with a couple of additions like Ake and Torres. You think, well, they must be in a decent enough shape. They finished second last year. Yeah. They had the problems in various games, but they're not insurmountable. And then other days you can wake up and go, good God, Nicholas Otamendi is still at the club. John Stones is still not found his form. How have they ended up going into another season without a left back? So it just really depends on what mood I've woken up in. Today I'm feeling quite confident, but I mean, roll on Monday. I don't know how I'll feel Monday morning.
Dan's upturned frown there, so it's different. Dan, how do you feel about it, mate?
Kind of the same, really. I mean, I've gone from, a few weeks ago when we were linked with Lionel Messi to my sort of expectations for the season being up here, now just kind of being down here, I think, really. So it's like we're going into the new season. We've not really made drastic improvements to the squad. We've not really bought a player who, like Messi, who would have such a transformative effect on things. But we've still got a good squad, haven't we? I mean, I'd like to think that they will be a bit fired up to kind of put right the wrongs of last season and go out there and try and, out of embarrassment more than anything, try and close the gap to Liverpool. But then, you watch that Liverpool game against Leeds at the weekend, and again, they've played quite badly and found a way to win at the end. I'm thinking, are we going to have another season of this, of watching Liverpool hoping they're going to slip up?
City playing quite bad, well and finding a way to lose, you mean?
Exactly, yeah. So
and Liverpool doing the reverse,
Yeah, I mean, we lost 9 games last season, didn't we? We can't, afford to lose anything like that. I think they've got to be looking at, 3-4 defeats at the absolute maximum. So, yeah, hopefully, I guess I'm cautiously optimistic that things are going to be a bit better this time around, but who really knows?
How much, you kind of touched on it there, but I do feel like that's the major part of it for me, actually, the Messi thing. I feel like that really has kind of I feel like we'd never known that was going to happen. It's like when you found out you're one number away from winning the lottery or something like that. I don't know. It feels that kind of really frustrating. I feel like if I didn't know that, I'd probably be a little bit more relaxed, but it's almost like everything feels a little bit underwhelming after we've been sold those promises, doesn't it? Not promises as such, but it did feel likely at one point, didn't it? And I kind of got caught up in hype about it. Do you think there's an element of that, David, like the fact that the Messi thing kind of got us so high up there that anything else after that can feel a little bit underwhelming?
There is a possibility of that. I think, I don't know. I got caught up in it all as well, and I thought there was a good couple of days where I thought it's happening, it's on.
Same.
And I don't know how you I don't know how you recover from that as a fan, because like Dan said, what on earth could compare to that now?
Yeah,
they could go out and sign 10 players and spend £1 billion on bringing in 10 quality players, and you go, it's still not the same though, is it?
Do you think the thing I mean, this is just speculation territory, Dan, but a lot of people have debated how much City have put into that Messi thing in general, and the idea that it being a distraction. Do you buy into that personally? Because I mean, we have seen, it does feel like from the outside in, looking at that, everything else did seem to pause. I don't know if that's a thing, but I mean, what's your take on that? Do you believe that to be true, or?
I don't know, really. I mean, the big saga of the summer really has been Koulibaly, hasn't it? Which is probably the dullest transfer saga I can ever imagine. You're looking at the tweets from City Extra and what have you, and every day it's like, oh, there's still 5 million away in valuation or whatever. It's like, I don't
This
care.
is a crucial
Let me know
week.
when he signed. Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's seriously packing his bags and all that shit.
Seriously packing his bags.
Yeah, I don't know if
cautiously. Yeah.
What I don't understand is if the money was there for Messi, why is it not there for Koulibaly? Why are they haggling over the last 5 million for Koulibaly? If that is the case, there's some chat now that they're moving on to Koundé from Sevilla today is like the big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there was. What I found interesting was I've been saying sort of since the end of last season, which granted wasn't very long, it was only 3 weeks ago, wasn't it? But I thought they needed another forward player, and my pick would have been Aubameyang, given his contract situation at Arsenal. And the talk after he's now signed his contract is that 2 clubs made an offer for him this summer that were rejected. And I do wonder if City were one of them, and if they are still in the market for another forward player. I would like to think they are, because I'm not sure our options in that department are particularly strong, especially with Aguero coming back from this injury.
I'm worried about that. I'm worried about the injury.
We had this Messi thing. Yeah, we had this Messi thing where it was like all of our problems were going to be solved with this one signing, it seemed. And all of a sudden, those problems still exist. And it's like, well, how are you going to address it now?
Yeah, I mean, it does feel that entirely for me. I mean, the Aguero thing does I am worried about that, because the meniscus thing is famously a really horrible injury that kind of recurs an awful lot. And even though in the moment it can only last you out a month or two out, it just kind of comes back. And I do worry about that's one of my biggest concerns, the forward situation, because I've got a feeling we're going to see someone out for an awful long time, especially given this condensed season. Do you think that City, David, will be likely be in for everyone else? Because it has been quiet, hasn't it? I mean, other than centre-back targets thrown around, I've not really seen anything about midfielders, left-backs, forwards, or anything like that.
Yeah, and we live in an age where you can't help but find out either. I don't remember a time when City went, wham, we signed such a body, and you go, oh god, I just did not see that coming at all.
Bernardo that was it. Yeah, but that it was nothing, was there?
I was going to say the last one I can remember is Bernardo Silva like that. Other than that, it's been long drawn out negotiations,
which is normal, isn't it?
It's been going on for what feels like a decade almost now with Koulibaly. So I'd be surprised if there was anybody else that they were working on that we'd not yet heard about. But equally, I'm open to surprises. I'd quite like City to surprise me with a new forward player like Dan's after. I agree entirely on that front. Like you say, with Aguero's knee injury, you don't know how he's going to come back. I saw a video of him doing a few drills in training today with the ball at his feet, darting in and out of cones. Nothing too intensive, but it suggests that he's running and moving again. I don't know if he'll be fit for Wolves or not, but if not, then he'll be close. And Gabriel Jesus has never really got the fans that excited as a potential Aguero replacement. He blows really hot and cold at times. So I don't know. I don't know if part of the problems last season could be addressed just by bringing in someone who is a clinical finisher and someone who, will bag an extra 10 or 12 goals in those sorts of games that City were losing last season, where they created, to the point where they were creating almost open nets at times and missing them. You just need someone to get the ball in the net, however it happens. And when Aguero's not on the pitch, weirdly, I think City struggle with that, despite the talent they've got in the team.
So that's basically it's another area that I feel like. It's not easy to find someone who's going to be like Aguero. I think we all admit that immediately. But you do wish sometimes there was someone other than Gabriel Jesus. I think it's fair to say I really admire his work rate, I admire his dedication, his versatility, all that kind of stuff. But then there is a big asterisk next to his name, which usually means he's not really that great in front of goal sometimes. I think that's probably a fair thing to say. And you wish there was someone who isn't Sergio Aguero, who probably could be injury prone, and who isn't Gabriel Jesus, who's proven not always to be that reliable in front of goal to rely on. It would be nice just for the sake of challenge, I guess. But Dan, if City do sign a centre-back now, so we've got a centre-back, then we've got Nathan Ake as well, comes in, who I think it's probably fair to say will be a good squad player. Ferran Torres, little wonder kid from Spain. Are you happy with that transfer window? Where does that rate for you in terms of transfer windows?
I think it's a reasonably good transfer window. Like you said earlier, if the Messi thing had never been mentioned, then we wouldn't have been bothered about that. We would have looked at the signs we've made and thought, Ferran Torres, I think he's a good signing. I watched him play for Spain a couple of weeks ago and thought he was really impressive there. So he's young, and I think he will add the thing that we lacked without Sané. He was injured last season. Ake, I think, is a good cover player at the back who can play with Laporte or as cover for Laporte. He can perhaps play left back as well, which is quite interesting. If they do get another centre back, I would like it to be Koulibaly if possible, because I think he is that kind of enforcer, sort of defender that we've lacked since Kompany left. But like I mentioned earlier, this Jules Koundé from Sevilla that's been mentioned today, there's some talk that they could be getting him with Otamendi going the other way, which would seem like a really good deal for me. He's a guy who can play on the right or the left. He's like pretty much ambidextrous with his feet, and he can play fullback positions as well. He's a big, strong, and he's a lot younger than Koulibaly as well. So that to me seems like that would be a really good investment if we got him. I think you would have to deem that a good transfer window. Yeah, but
would it be enough to bridge the gap, so to speak? And do you think, and we'll get onto the rivals later on, because I want to talk a little bit about certain teams later on in the video, but do you think that would be enough for City to bridge the gap with Liverpool, those three signings? Say presumably it's Koulibaly or Koundé, and then obviously the other two that we've already signed.
I think so, yeah. Because, I mean, I think a lot of the season will depend on how Liverpool go and whether they can maintain their level of the last couple of seasons. It looks like they're going to get Thiago now, so that's a pretty frightening signing from their point of view. So you've got a great squad. We can't forget that. We've got Kevin De Bruyne, who's probably the best player in the world aside from Lionel Messi at the moment. Sterling, Mahrez, Bernardo Silva. Hopefully he can come back next season. Laporte's going to be fit, hopefully, for much more of the season than he was last time. Ederson surely can't have as bad a season as he did last year. So there are plenty of reasons to look at that squad and say it's a great squad. It's the envy of everyone else in the league, probably including Liverpool. But we did finish 18 points behind them last season, and you do think, how are they going to bridge that gap? Are they going to? It's impossible to say.
It snowballed out of control though last season. I think there was a point where I don't think City were as far off the pace as Liverpool as the table suggested off Liverpool, and I think once it got to kind of Christmas and they were that far behind, it became very easy then at that point to start dropping the odd point here and there more than they were dropping already at that stage.
Why do you think they were, David? Why do you think they were?
I just think. You get to certainly. I look at the season post lockdown, for instance, and there was 4 or 5 games there where they won 5-0, and a couple of games where they just couldn't score for love nor money. And I suspect if they were still in a title race at that stage, if Liverpool had dropped more points, those 5-0 batterings might have been a bit tighter games because they weren't going all blood and thunder throughout the 90 minutes. And those games like the Southampton one, I feel like they'd have found a way to get over the line. But as soon as that game becomes less important than the cup games, for instance, the only real important game City had before the Champions League kicked off was that Arsenal semi-final. And they phoned it in with one of those performances that they put in at Southampton. And it just became habitual. And I think the fact that we're going into a new season with a hard reboot and the fact that there is, it's a completely blank slate from here on in, it just resets everything. So I don't necessarily think that you needed to add that much to the squad to get it back to where it was again. Give Ederson a bit of a break, and he comes back making saves that he should make again. Bernardo Silva finds his form again. Suddenly you're looking at a completely different City side than the one that finished 18 points off Liverpool last season.
How much do you feel, in either you can jump in on this, lockdown and no fans and all that kind of stuff? I feel like it's not really been talked about quite a lot, to be honest, in the mainstream, because we've already gotten used to this horrible no fans world that we live in. That I think it's probably fair to say that's going to affect some other teams more than others. And really, I don't want to be like really lazy and go, Liverpool, it's all about the Anfield atmosphere, and that might be true, but I don't want to immediately jump to that conclusion and say Liverpool won't be able to play anywhere near as effectively without them, because they still had that energy to get back against Leeds. But that could also be true. I mean, how do you feel that this could affect Manchester City and the league as a whole, Dan, in general?
Well, we're used to playing without fans, aren't we?
As
everyone said.
Bingo there.
Oh, that was a tap-in.
I mean, if we're still, playing behind closed doors by the time we go to Anfield, that would be quite nice, actually, because I think City do definitely bottle it every time they go to Anfield, don't they, with the atmosphere there?
Yeah.
So
it's certainly the best way to test the theory, isn't it?
Yeah. We've got a control group and everything, haven't we, now this time? So actual double-blind test standard and all that kind of shit going on. Too many fucking pandemic terms I've learned and all that kind of stuff. What about you, David? I mean, do you think that could actually play into City's hands potentially? Because, maybe to have football or something like that?
Yeah, I think if any team's going to benefit, it's likely to be City. I mean, I guess Liverpool would benefit as well purely because of the talent in the squad. And if you take out the emotional side of having to go to an away ground with a vociferous set of fans, Suddenly it's all about the football that you play and nothing else. And I guess that probably plays into City's favour. The only thing I'm a bit kind of unsure about, I didn't really think I'd feel like this, but I wasn't really that bothered when people were talking about playing games behind closed doors not being right in the back end of last season because what's football without the fans? And I'm thinking, well, if it's safe and we can get the season finished, then that's fine. But all of a sudden, I suddenly feel like going into a new season without fans being there and actually starting something without the fans. That doesn't feel quite as easy to swallow as finishing the back end of last season, because last season was half complete. So
it was all about money, wasn't it? And sponsors and all that. Everyone's like, "Oh, we have to because of the sponsors, and we have to finish the contracts, and we have to do all that." And it's not like last season there was unfinished business. So I understand that. I totally agree, and it does feel different this time, doesn't it? It's like, well, actually, no, everything, all those sponsors there, you can just start them whenever, So, but I mean, I think we know the show won't really stop because money and all that kind of stuff. Moving on to City's squad. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne is the main one that we expect the most things from, largely. But away from Kevin De Bruyne, because it feels like we need. That's what I mean. The answer still could be Kevin De Bruyne, of course. You have different reasons, but who are you expecting to be important for Manchester City this season? Like mostly, Dan. Like, is there anyone in particular that you think could surprise City fans this season, or anyone that we just need to step up, particularly away from De Bruyne or anything like that?
All right, I'll give you two. One's pretty obvious, and one's a bit of an outlandish prediction from me. The first one is Rodri. I think he's going to have a much better season this year. I think he was good at times last year. He sort of struggled to adapt to the pace a little bit. And I think he, after a season of Premier League football under his belt, will be a bit better. The outlandish one that I think, this could look stupid if he gets sold in a few days or something. I think John Stones might end up having quite an important role to play for City this year. I could see him sort of working his way back in. I can understand why he wouldn't want to leave City at this moment in time, especially if Otamendi leaves, because he thinks, well, I'm still going to get game time in the cups and things like that. If I can impress Guardiola, he bought me for a reason a few years ago. If I can impress him in these games, then I might be able to force my way back in, and I don't have to take a step down and go to Newcastle or whoever. So that's my crazy prediction for the season, that John Stones will actually end the season as an important player.
So does that mean we don't sign Koulibaly or Koundé? Does it mean one of them gets injured? Or does it mean Stones as a stormer?
It probably means we don't end up signing someone, to be honest. That seems to be the way that it goes with City these days, with some of our sort of transfer dealings. We'll haggle, and then eventually comes the point where the deal just ends up being off.
David, on to you with that question.
I agree with Dan on Rodri. I think he needs to have a big season. He's had a year to bed in now, and there's only so long you can rely on Fernandinho as a holding midfielder. We saw last season, as soon as you take him out of holding midfield, it suddenly becomes a lot harder for the team. So I do think Rodri needs to step up. I think one of the new signings is actually going to have a bigger impact than a lot of people think. I think Nathan Ake will be quite a key player for City this season.
I kind of agree with you, yeah.
Well, the more I think about it, and the more I think City aren't really in the market for a left back, and he's on record as having said he's been training in various positions across the back, which to me screams code for I've been playing left back in training. So I suspect he'll play a fair bit there. But Guardiola has that thing where he doesn't have his fullbacks necessarily bombing on down the line, getting in balls into the box like Liverpool do. They tuck in and become kind of holding players. And if Ake's, comfortable on the ball, as we saw at Bournemouth, that he's naturally a centre-back. Playing left back, coming inside into a kind of a holding position, might almost be something that suits the way City want to play, and might be something that Guardiola will look at, not necessarily as someone who can kind of fill in and do a job as Delph and Zinchenko have been doing, but actually somebody who could do the job that he wants for the team.
Well, he has Fulham at least as a left back. He has played there before in his career, so it's not unfeasible to see him actually there. He plays there for Netherlands, for example. So
I think he's going to be quite a key role in this City team, whether or not they go out and sign another defender. So I suspect he'll be a big player. And I also want Mahrez to kind of pick up again in the same way he picked up last season from the season before. If we can see another step up from him, I think a lot of the Mahrez doubters will finally be coming on board, because I really like Mahrez, and I think in this City side, he could be such a great player for this club.
Are there still Mahrez doubters?
I think there's still. I still see a lot of it. Yeah.
I was a bit of one, but he's won me over definitely now. Yeah,
I think he's a quality player, but I do think he could easily be out the team if someone else steps up. Bernardo, I think if Bernardo steps up, I think Mahrez would immediately be on the bench. Personally, But I think Morris is quality. But I mean, we just have to. I mean, for me, by the way, the answer to that is Bernardo. I mean, I think he's so important. I mean, largely after losing David Silva, we felt like Bernardo was a passenger last year, and a lot of players were. So maybe he went a little bit under the radar. No, I wouldn't say he went under the radar. We're all aware of it, but I guess there was less attention to draw on it because certain players like Ederson had an off season. Rodri was still adapting, all that kind of stuff, and City largely were a little bit, all over the place. And I think Bernardo, I think he's just so important. I really want Bernardo to find that form of 18-19 because he was literally up there for the Ballon d'Or. We forget that he was nominated for the Ballon d'Or. What happened? Like Bernardo last season, I'm hoping it's just a blip because if Bernardo turns up next season, I feel vastly more confident about our chances.
The number of names we've come up with there tells you how what the form was like in the squad last season.
Yeah. I mean, that's it entirely. One of the questions I wanted to ask is we're in a world without David Silva now, which no one ever wanted to admit. But
as a result, he still exists. It's just not at City anymore.
We'll rob him back anyway. We'll just get him in the coach. But Manchester City have to adapt to that as well because you haven't got David Silva. Can you play like you did with David Silva anymore? I mean, are we expecting to see a different Manchester City this year? Is it necessary? Can we even replace that David Silva? That Paul's effect, that kind of calm approach that he brings to the game. Are you expecting to see a similar setup to usual, Dan, or do you think Guardiola will start to Guardiola? I guess is the word.
Who knows? I mean, I could see him maybe sort of going with the three at the back thing a little bit more. Like he did against Leon, which it worked very badly. But maybe there was like the genesis of a good idea in there. I don't know. I mean, the player we've not mentioned yet is Phil Foden, who I'm expecting big things from this season. The sample size of his sort of City performances is quite small, but he's been brilliant pretty much every time he steps onto the pitch for City, hasn't he? And you kind of think if he really gets a chance, if he's considered like one of the first names on the team sheet from now on, which is possible, I think. Now Silva's gone, there's no excuse not to play him anymore. He's never let us down, has he? I think he could end up being a really important player.
Where do you think he'll play?
I would imagine that he will play sort of alongside De Bruyne in that kind of number 8 position. And let's be honest, David Silva has been a fantastic player for us, arguably the best player in the club's history. But last season he wasn't really doing much. He wasn't great. So there's a possibility that change, that sort of having David Silva come out of the team and Phil Foden come in, I know they're not exactly the same sort of player, could even make City a little bit more of a threat going forward, a little bit more quicker in the transitions. Even the pressing might be a bit better under Foden, which was a big problem for City last season. So I'm optimistic about that. I think the Foden era needs to start, and I don't think we necessarily need to. Well, I don't think we are going to sign anyone to replace David Silva. I think that's the replacement right there, isn't it?
I love the idea of the Foden era. It's just such a beautiful little sentence. The new era starting in. Before we go into the whole season, kind of like how we feel about the season, realistic expectations from the season, I want to turn a little bit towards City's rivals, I guess. It's been a differing level of kind of success in the transfer market. Chelsea, of course, have just gone pure Chelsea. Not in a bad way. I'm just saying they've really been on it in the transfer market. They've spent an awful lot of money, almost like fuck it, we don't care, we're Chelsea, we can do that, and kind of slightly admire the ballsiness of that. They've strengthened all over, I guess, largely. Liverpool, as we're recording this, as Dan mentioned earlier, starting to get Thiago in. They've signed a great right back as well. He's just basically a squad player to back up. United so far, it's just Van der Beek, isn't it? I think, and that's it. Spurs are a little bit of a wild card as well. They signed Doherty, who's a good right back from Wolves. They've got Reguilón coming in according to all the reports today. And if he comes in, they've improved both of their fullbacks. They've got Højbjerg in, Lo Celso confirmed. Gareth Bale could be going there. Spurs could be a little bit of a dark horse. But looking around, David, I mean, I've not mentioned Arsenal as well, by the way, so I'll quickly summarise what they've done. They signed Gabriel, Willian. They've got that Saliba guy, the defender back. And they've obviously got a Aubameyang beside a contract, which is big for them. And obviously got Arteta kind of adapting it. What are you expecting from our rivals, and who? How do you see Liverpool, Chelsea, United, Arsenal, Spurs getting on this season? Is there anyone in particular that you're worried about or anything like that?
I honestly don't know the answer to this question, and
Fair enough.
It troubles me that it's not quite as easy as Arsenal will do what Arsenal always do and Spurs will do what Spurs always do, because if some of those players get over the line for Spurs, then they are an absolute wild card for this season. I'm not suggesting that they'll go on to win the title or anything like that, but they'll upset some people in some places, and that could all that does is throw a cat among some pigeons. So I suspect City and Liverpool will be top 2 again. What the order is, I honestly don't know at this stage. I'm not that convinced by Liverpool either. Leeds gave them a good run for the money. Okay, Liverpool dominated the ball. Leeds didn't create that many chances, but they still scored 3 times from not creating that many chances. So you can read that however you like. Like Dan said before, Liverpool fans will quite happily look at that and go, well, we found a way to win that game. And City fans can quite easily look at that and go, God, Liverpool are there for the taking this season. Yeah. Throw Thiago in, it changes the game, I guess, as well. So I honestly don't know. Chelsea, again, they've spent a lot of money and brought in some quality players, but Brighton aren't a great side. And so, is it going to take time for those players to start working together properly? And does that stop them doing any real damage this season? I don't know. And then again, you look at City's problems. If City just solved their problems from last season, is that enough to finish ahead of everybody else? I'm not sure based on everybody else's transfer window. So I don't know. Like Dan, I think Aubameyang would have been a great signing for City. So therefore, I think Arsenal snapping him up has been a great move for them again. And I can't help but like Arteta. He's been playing some good football with Arsenal, and watching some of their goals recently has reminded me of another team that I quite like. So they could be a bit of a dark horse for this season.
Dan, how do you feel about how the rivals have strengthened? Anyone particularly you fear, or any signings that stand out for you, anything like that?
Well, I love how Mooney didn't mention United at all there. That was a very, very subtle bit of Bertie in there. Arsenal. Arsenal finished 9th last season, so I don't see them really sort of being title challengers this season. I think they've got to focus on sort of getting back to the top 6, top 4 level first and foremost. I don't see Spurs being a challenge for us while Mourinho's there. I think he's, his sort of football belongs in the dark ages now, and it doesn't matter who they sign; they're not going to be at that top level.
Scared of Gareth Bale then?
Not really, no. I think he's a good signing for them. Obviously, they're paying him an awful lot of money, I think. But I think again, they finished outside the top 6 last season, did they? And then did they finish 6th? I can't remember. But their aim is getting back in the top 4. I don't think they're going to have the consistency to sort of mount a title challenge. They lost the first game of the season against Everton as well, and were really poor there. Liverpool, like I mentioned earlier, they got 197 points over 2 seasons, and the previous 2 seasons before last one, we got 198 points, and you saw how City dropped off. So my big hope is that Liverpool are going to drop off as well in this coming season.
There was the stat. Yeah, there was the stat doing the round. No team has done north of 90 points 3 seasons running.
I can't see
City
it.
Didn't manage it. Yeah, so if Liverpool manage it, it'd be the first time it's ever happened.
The Thiago signing is a very good one, but he has injury issues, which could be a problem for him. And I also think Liverpool, I don't want to sound like I'm wishing injury on players and stuff like that, but they're important players, like Van Dijk, Salah, Mane, they've just been constantly fit for 3 seasons, whereas we've had all these kind of injury problems.
Really good inhalers,
Yeah, we had De Bruyne out, we had Laporte out, we've had Aguero out from time to time. They've got to have something like that happen to them at some point, something that's going to really affect them. So that's my sort of hope for the season. But I tell you what's annoying me, maybe this is a bit of tinfoil hat time, but they'll have played 2 games before we even play our first game of the season. They could be 6 points ahead of us before we've even kicked a ball. That seems really unfair to me.
Weirdly, though,
anyone else agree with that?
That's what we wanted, though, isn't it? Because we wanted a break after the Champions League, didn't we? So
yeah, but then we're still going to finish our season at the same time as them. So we've still got to cram all our games into the same period of time, whereas they'll have had an extra week. And like I said, the psychological impact of them being 6 points ahead before we've been played.
Yeah, no,
I'd love it if the solution to that was the FA saying, right, well, City can just finish their season a week later, and then there being 3 points in it on the final day, and Liverpool just sitting at home waiting to see what happens.
It seems only fair to me. That's all I'm saying.
I think basically it's all a shit show, and we don't have to ride along with it anyway. So finally, and you don't have to be. Don't worry, none of us is going to get this right. We know we won't. But I'd like to see. I had some kind of expectations or relative predictions, I guess, for each of the competitions. So the 4 major ones. I'm definitely putting Carabao as a major one because I bloody love that trophy. But go on, David. What's your expectations for the trophies in Manchester City this season?
I think. I always hesitate to say that I think it will be a bad season if they don't win the league, purely because anything can happen in such fine margins. Then it can take one thing. If they finished a point off the title, you wouldn't go, oh well, look at that. That was awful. But equally, if they finish 18 points behind the title again, you go, well, something's not quite right there. So, I mean, I'd like them to win the league. I think they've got enough in the squad to win the league. I think they will be in the top 2 at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's holding me back is that I feel like they've got more issues to sort out from last season than Liverpool did.
Yeah.
Whether that has a major bearing on this season, I don't know. Whether they've solved the issues, I think we kind of wait and see till Monday, don't we, and find out on Monday.
Yeah.
If you were to push me for an answer, I think City will win the league, but I do think it'll be tight.
Well, I've just pushed you, and there we go. So, what are you expecting in the domestic cup competitions or the Champions League? How are you expecting it'll go?
They're all knockout competitions, so again, it's the bounce of the ball sometimes. The one thing I will say is Guardiola takes all of them very seriously. The reason City have won the League Cup as often as they have done is because Guardiola plays a strong team in it. It's not because City's kids are far better than everybody else's kids. If other teams took it as seriously as City did, then it'd be a much more of more different teams would win it. So I guess they'll probably win the League Cup, because that seems to be what happens until they're told otherwise at the moment.
This is sorry, I've totally broad question I forgot to mention. Is there anything that you would like to see from this season? And that's incredibly broad. But for example, if you're asking me, I'm Mr. Academy, I'd like to see Tommy Doyle start a few Premier League games. That kind of world. Is there anything personally that you would like to see from City this season that maybe you haven't seen before or anything like that?
I don't know, actually. I'd like Foden to get more game time than he did last season, which I think his trajectory anyway is happening. In terms of the youngsters, I don't really pay that much attention to the EDS and the youth side. So I only kind of get exposed to the players that are coming through. So like you say, Tommy Doyle,
to be honest,
with Bellis.
I probably phrased that question badly. I meant anything from Manchester City this season, just broadly, really, not necessarily with the academy players. Was there anything like, I don't know, like, for example, I guess Foden having a big season is one thing, which you probably pretty much answered there. So Dan's got more time to think about that question now. But Dan, we'll go on to your...
I guess from my point of view, it's just simply, we're in such a blessed position as City fans, then we can go and just go, well, we can actually say, I just want to be able to enjoy the football. And come what may, they'll have a lot of success doing that. There's a lot of other teams out there that don't get that luxury, I guess. Yeah,
definitely. We definitely forget about that. Dan, what are your predictions for the season then, largely? What's a decent season for City, and what are your predictions?
Well, I'm about 50-50 on us winning the league, I think. I have no idea at this. Obviously, we are one of the 2 best equipped teams in the league to do so. I have no idea whether we actually will do it. And I think, like Mooney said, it's going to come down to the fine margins. With the sort of cup competitions, I know this is probably a bit of an unpopular opinion among City fans, but I quite happily bin the cup competitions this season, or at least play a second string in the Carabao and the FA Cup. Really focus on the Premier League and the Champions League with all the fixture congestion that's going to come this season. I think it's going to take its toll if Pep starts trying to play his best team in all the competitions again. I don't think it's possible.
Doesn't the Carabao Cup end? Don't we know the semi-finalists by October this year? Is it not really, really early?
I don't know, actually, but I mean, it's already started, hasn't it? Which is seems a bit earlier than normal. No, it is earlier than normal, because normally it starts a little bit later, I think, doesn't it? I know it's because we're in Audi in September. That's why, isn't it? I guess. Yeah,
so haven't they crammed? I think they've crammed the early rounds all together in the early weeks. So I don't even know if you could play your strongest team, because it'd be like playing your strongest team every 3 days or so.
No idea, but that would be wouldn't surprise me and everything. Go on. So
the Champions League is still something that I'm not desperate to win. I still don't have this burning desire to win it above all else. So I'm quite philosophical about how we do in that. Obviously I want us to get to knockout stages and perhaps do a bit better than the quarterfinal that we got last year, and come up against a team like Lyon who are nowhere near as good as us, and actually go out there and beat them. And I guess that ties in with what I hope to see this season, and that's Guardiola's to just kind of keep things a bit simple in these games. Everyone is still annoyed about the team he picked for Lyon and the way he just overcomplicates things in these games. Just go out there with the team that we've got, with our best 11, with our all in the proper positions, and just play as we know we can do. That's what I would like to see from City.
Finally, Pep, will he be still here in 12 months? David,
is he going to sign a new contract?
Yes.
I don't know why, but I've got a funny feeling that he will.
Okay. I mean, what about you, Dan?
I think he will, yeah. And I think Messi will come next summer.
Oh, nice.
I hope so, anyway. I hope so.
Will Aguero sign a new contract?
Yeah, they all will. It's all going to be great.
Everyone's staying around. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the City Social. I have loads of talking points there. Do let us know down in the comments your predictions and all that kind of stuff. And I'll be doing a big kind of prediction as well on my own in another video separately. So make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel so you don't miss on that. Go check out as well, of course, One Football. I talk about One Football all the time, and Dan's a legend as well. Put both of these guys' Twitters in the link in the description. Obviously, Blue Me Podcast and Why Always Podcast are fantastic as well. So make sure to check those out. Guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you all very soon. See you later, guys. In a bit.